Welcome to Tramlines, a podcast from Agri. I'm your host, Tony Smith, putting your questions to the experts. Today we're going to be talking with Christine Tacon, and the focus of today's conversation is all about leadership in agriculture. What does that mean for you and your farm business? And why is it so important now and in the future for farming? So good afternoon, Christine, and a very warm welcome to Tramlines. Could you share a little bit about your career path when it comes to leadership and some of those leadership roles in farming?
Well, my mother actually read agriculture at Sutton Bonington, and my uncle was a dairy farmer, but it was I had nothing to do with farming myself until I was actually headhunted to run the co-op's farming business, which I then did for 11 years. And when I stopped doing that, I've done a sort of a portfolio of roles, including being the Groceries Code adjudicator, which was regulating the retailers, made sure they behaved themselves. I've been on the board of the Met Office, the Natural Environment Research Council, Rural Payments Agency, and currently I'm chair of Red Tractor. I chair MDS, which is a graduate recruitment and training business. I chair the Rural Affairs Committee for the B.Sc, making sure that it's only 3 times a year, but making sure that they keep their topics relevant on all of their programs. And I think one of the things I'm very proud of having done is actually set up Women in Food and Farming, which I've been doing for probably about 15 years now. But now there's it's really just getting some headwind and really moving.
What actually is leadership in agriculture? What does that mean for you?
Leadership to me is actually probably what every farmer does. I think it's very easy to think of a leader as someone that's in charge of a lot of people, but there's not a one-man farmer in this country that doesn't have other people coming on the land to do things, and they need to motivate and help and advise and make sure that they're doing everything safely. All of that is leadership. And certainly I've been involved in interviewing people for the Farmers Club Charitable Trust to go on Worshipful Company of Farmers or Windsor Leadership Trust training courses, and you get people coming along and say, well, I don't really manage anybody. It's not about managing people, it's about leading and influencing. So I like to think of us all as leaders, and certainly some of my favorite projects when I was at the co-op were some of the wildlife projects, when I actually insisted that they were never run by the farm manager. And I just wanted somebody on the farm to say, actually, this is something I'm really interested in. And of course, they then become a better leader. So leadership is really just about how you go about your daily life. And in my view, everyone's a leader.
And Christine, why is it important to be a good leader in farming?
Actually, it's not important to be a good leader in farming. It's important to be a leader in every walk of life. And I think having myself had a career with Mars Confectionery and Coates Fiella, various other people, it's actually a big shock to me that you come into farming and it's almost like we don't think training's important once you've left university or college or wherever you've been. You might go and go on some training days when you're looking at other people's farms. And I think all of that is incredibly important. I very often ask young people, what's the last piece of training that you've done? And I can guarantee that the majority of them will say health and safety. Never do I hear people spontaneously talking about having done leadership training or training on how to be a good coach and various about how you go about your work. It seems that all of our training, maybe it's because farmers are generally so incredibly busy, but everybody feels they can justify technical training or health and safety because you've got to do it. But actually, the leadership training it's how you get more out of people. And if I may use the example, when I was being recruited from university by Mars, I'll never forget this person saying to me that generally people will come to work and give you about 70% of what they're capable of if you're lucky on an ongoing basis. We're not looking for people that are going to come in here and give us 90%. We're looking for the people that can make everybody around them want to give 80%. Because, of course, that's far more productive for the business than you giving your little bit more. And I think I've tried to take that approach. And that's not about having people reporting to you. It's just about people who are around you and encouraging them and coaching them and congratulating people and giving, working together on issues as opposed to telling people how to do things. I think we're very, very poor as an industry at valuing that side of the importance of being a good leader. that you need to be trained in how to be a leader, or, well, you learn off other people and you learn off watching other. I think maybe because our profession's a bit lonely, you probably don't get to see as many examples of good and bad leadership. I mean, Mars was an open plan office and you could see people that were dreadful, and there were other people that if they told you could walk across that pond, you'd walk across that pond. You'd think you could walk on water.
I can really hear the influence that a good leader can have on the workforce or those people around them, surrounding the business. But what are the key qualities that make for a good leader?
Well, the example I gave about if you can get everybody to raise their game a little and give a little bit more to the business because they're engaged with the business, that's the quality of a good leader. Now, that might come from empathy, understanding where people are coming from. It can come from also from giving people a vision so that they understand where they're going, but also treating them with respect. You are giving people feedback, you're telling them how they're doing, you're including them in the journey, and also you're asking them for advice as well, even though you're supposedly the boss, but they will have better ideas than you. So, those just some of the qualities, but it's about recognizing how important all those individuals are. And I think if I look back on my career, the most enduring impact of what I've done is on people, because I've launched products for Mars that don't exist anymore. I ran a co-op farming business that got broken up. You can look at all of these things and think, gosh, what's endured? But actually, your impact on people is what has endured.
And in terms of that training, what types and what forms of training can we look for in agriculture, that's focusing on agriculture, that can help us?
Well, very oddly, we've actually got an enormous choice of training in agriculture. And I've been asked very often, almost on an annual basis, by people who have got bursaries. They're trying to find people to give them to. I've been asked if I can help them find some women, because they're not getting enough applicants, or can we help find people to give it? So, we're all working together. Everybody that does training is working together in Agri Leadership Week to try and raise awareness of all of the different courses that there are. We don't see ourselves as competitors, but I think we're all in the same boat of really struggling to get good candidates, not get good candidates, get more candidates. We want unusual people. We want left field people. We want people that saying, I only run my little business on the Isle of Skye, and I don't really know anything about leadership or management, but I think that's maybe something I should be studying. So yes, we want you. And whether it be the Worshipful Company Farmers, or the Institute of Agricultural Management, or the Windsor Leadership Trust, or the John Edgar Trust, or the Duchy of Cornwall, or Nuffield, or MDS, we're all working together to put all the information into one place and talk about leadership and training in Agri Leadership Week, to say, whatever stage you are in your career, there will be something here that really suits you.
So there is something there for everybody then?
I think there's something there for everybody. I think some people might look at it and think, oh, I'm not that good. Well, I'll say, give it a try. And, even within the Farmers Club Charitable Trust, we have snapshot studies where we give people up to £2,000 to do some learning of their own. I mean, I thought it was quite cheeky once, because somebody actually asked if they could use it to fund their basis training. I thought, well, why not? We said it's about learning. It's about spreading your horizons. So yes, I think there is probably something for everybody. And I would say the more it frightens you, the idea of applying for one of these, then probably the more you need to have a go.
And when you speak to people who have attended these courses, Christine, what are some of the additional benefits that you hear they have gained as a result?
People who go on those training courses say they learned a lot from everything that they did, but they also got a cohort of people that they are still meeting 20, 30 years later. You're actually, it's not just the training, it's actually the engaging, what you learn from other people, and creating people that you can ring when you're saying, I'm feeling really down about life, or I really don't know what to do with this. This has got stuck. What do I do? So I think that cohort is important as well as the training.
So you're talking there about developing your own network, that support network, that growth network that, as you said, lasts 20, 30 years. Wow, that's amazing.
Yes, people keep getting back together. It's their friends, their supports, their people that outside your normal day, normal sphere of what you do, that you can lean on and will help you.
Join the world's most important industry and check out our Agri vacancies at agri.co.uk/careers. So Christine, at the start, you talked about your role in setting up women in food and farming. Tell us a bit about that and its relevance today for finding future leaders.
Well, the great thing about women in food and farming is it's trying to pull women together who very often might feel quite lonely doing what they're doing and not realizing actually there's an awful lot of us out there. And I have a big impetus in trying to get people under 30 there. And generally we'll try and get sponsors, and actually Agri have sponsored before so that people under 30 come for free, so that they can mix with those of us that I would say more experienced. I'm trying not to say the word older, but to talk to us about some of the issues that we might have faced, and it might be completely personal about, when do you start doing your family and things like that, or how do I cope with this? But it was to try and let people see that there is a way through. So even if you feel it's difficult at the moment, there's lots of us that are there. We're doing it together, and that we're there to be mentors. And I don't mean a formal mentor, just someone that you can chat to or feel that you can ring them up. And generally, I've very often been contacted by people within the network about a little bit of career advice, or I've been asked to consider this job. What do you think? Just having someone to chat things through. And it's just really putting a hand out to people saying, yeah, there's loads of us out here. You might feel that you're on your own doing what you're doing, but we're all here and let's all support each other.
And talking to you before we went on air, so to speak, Christine, I know that you spoke with some passion about the importance of having that diversity of thinking in our industry.
And I'm always saying to people, if you're the only woman in a room, just be yourself. Don't try and be like anybody else. We need this diversity of thinking, whether it be from your ethnic backgrounds or your gender backgrounds or your general personality. We don't just want strong characters on boards. We want everybody. So go there and be yourself. And when you go to a job interview, be yourself. And if you don't get the job, that's because that wasn't the right job for you. Don't change yourself. Don't pretend to be something else.
I was reading some papers from the World Economic Forum about the challenges facing leaders in agriculture. And the challenges are very much the same worldwide as they are in the UK, with the amount of change that is going on in our industry. Christine, my question is, what style of leadership is required from these leaders of the future that may or may not be different to the leaders of the past? What are your thoughts?
I would say we need really quite a different style of leadership. We need to recognise that we've got to have much more variety of thought. We need to be encouraging people of very, very different backgrounds into our industry. We don't have the diversity of thought in our industry that we need, and we've got a massive issue. The climate is a massive issue. It's affecting everything about, everything this year in terms of all of our crops, but it affects how the public feel about what we do. We've got to think on a much broader basis, get more thinking in, get more ideas in. And I think one of the areas that I do worry about is that we all feel that it's important to lobby DEFRA and get DEFRA to change. And you think, actually, we should be working together as an industry. We should be sorting out our differences between ourselves, and we should be going to DEFRA as a united industry saying, this is what you need to do. Because DEFRA are being pulled in so many different directions, and we think, oh, well, we need to lobby them about this, but then they're also being lobbied by consumers about something else and by a different government department about something else. And I think we need to resolve many more of our things, and we need government to interfere less, but we need to advise government how we want them to interfere. So I think that's a massive change in how we do things. And I think we need the organizations within agriculture need to be leading in the right direction. And I think that it's, we are getting into this area where we're being sort of populist and responding to what we think those people working in our industry want, whereas we've got to actually help bring in the external thoughts and take the industry where it needs to go.
So does that mean that the modern leader needs to be very good at influencing?
I think yes, but it's the best influencers are the people that really understand. So you've got to not only think this is where we all need to go, but understand where everybody's coming from and how we're going to get there, and listen to what they're saying and maybe amend where we think we're going as well. And I sort of can't help but think about sort of Red Tractor there, that, we're trying to think about where things need to go, but we hadn't thought enough about where everybody was, and to then listen to them and to think, well, maybe I'm not completely right here, and I need to listen to what they're saying and amend where it is we need to go, but to still be leading.
And so what I'm hearing, Christine, is that new thinking and different styles of leadership are going to really help us navigate the future in farming.
Yes, I think we want new thinking. I mean, I was a new thinker coming into agriculture. I didn't know anything about it. I might have said just because I'd had family that had done it didn't mean to know that I knew anything about it. And interestingly, it made me a much better coach than I had been before. And I remember being shown round a farm just after I'd started, and as they were taking me back to the train station and dropping me off, they said, "Oh, Christine, there's something I should have asked you. Do I or do I not grow brassicas on the farm this year?" And I said, "Well, have you done a budget with and without brassicas?" He says, "Well, no, I haven't, but the main problem is it affects the following year as well." I said, "Well, why don't you do a budget for 2 years with and without brassicas? And that will help you work out your answer." And he said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "But could you just tell me something?" And he said, "What's that?" I said, "What's a brassica?" And he said my predecessor would have told him what to plant. Whereas I actually hadn't got a clue. I didn't even know what he's asking me, but I could give him an idea of how he could go about and solve the problem for himself.
And so bringing us back to training opportunities that Agri Leadership Week brings us, can you firstly share a little bit about your role at MDS?
We recruit people from generally straight from university. Some people have not been to university, but they have a similar sort of experience. And we give them 4 6-month secondments in 4 completely different member businesses, put them through a leadership and management apprenticeship. They become chartered at the end of it as well, so they get further qualifications. At the moment, we've got over 100 trainees on the programme. We've got over 65 members. They will vary from growers through to retailers. We've got a lot of our chem businesses. We've got an engineering business. So we've got various, sort of people within the industry. And we're giving people 4 very, very different experiences, so that by the end of it, they have they've got a good idea of the supply chain, but they've also got a good idea of what sort of things they want to do in the future. So when they then go into their first job after MDS, they tend to stay.
And I can see, Christine, that MDS and other organisations are all part of Agri Leadership Week, brought to us by the Institute for Agriculture and Horticulture.
I think they're at an early stage of doing that, but they are coordinating all of the efforts for the Agri Leadership Week. So all of us with our training courses, we've all input our information to them. They've been fantastic at coordinating and bringing us all together in that week. And I think it's very new. I think we've all got to learn how to use it and make the most of it, and what's in this for me. But I think it's a very good place to start.
To sum up this podcast, Christine, what would be your top tips to those listening today? Is it to encourage them to visit the website and maybe explore some learning for their leadership development? Or is it just to support others who maybe are in the right place to do that? What would be your top tip?
I'm afraid that would be both. It is understand the importance of the leadership training, not only for you, but the people in your business. And if you want to attract new thinking and new people into your business, then you need to be thinking about how I'm going to train them and how am I going to learn from them, as opposed to mold them into what I want them to be.
Thank you, Christine, for sharing your insights on why having great leaders in agriculture is so important. That's it for this podcast, but do tune in again as we meet the experts throughout the season, exploring the many immediate and longer-term questions for growers and farmers in the UK. If you have any questions that you would like us to ask the experts, email info@agri.co.uk. See you next time.